Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Nerdy Tarot. Today I've got the Page of Wands as the obstacle and the Knight of Swords as the opportunity. Let's get started. Page of Wands. It's kind of funny because yesterday we had the Two of Wands as the opportunity, and I was saying seek out, seek out this Page of Wands character. This is certainly an individual that you could model yourself after when the goal in mind is making that initial foray into the wild, because this is an individual who is they're out there. Um, but like all of the archetypes, in my opinion, like all the cards in general, there's a good side, there's a bad side, and so let's get into some of the downsides of this kind of archetype. I think this is one of the best. I think this is one of the best court cards to approach describing something like a Joker character, not even a Joker character, trickster god as an archetype, um, and not in the full proper sense of how I see the trickster god archetype, but often as the way that we are commonly, you know, sort of introduced to it. Just the guy who just does crazy things, the crazy actions. Most of the trickster gods, one of the things they all have in common is that they generally tend to be inventors, and so that's kind of a part of this, because we're certainly getting into, wands are the creative suit. Um, so I think some invention certainly plays a role in it, but I think this is a little too early in the progression of wands to be truly inventing new things, especially inventions. Um, but I do think that you know there's a scene that comes to mind for me from one of the Batman movies where the Joker the Joker essentially offers his services to the mob of Gotham City, and in exchange for promising them to eliminate the Batman, he wants half. He wants half of all the money. And then at one point we see that he has gotten half in cash, and it's this giant mountain of cash, and he just burns it. And he says, this town deserves a better criminal, or something like along those lines. And I think that aspect of the trickster god, I think, is pretty well encapsulated in the Page of Wands, or at least a portion of the Page of Wands, because I would say that one of the earliest types of creative action uh, is destruction. I don't like it. I don't like when my stuff gets destroyed. But this is often a very young kind of introduction to creation, and it's just destruction. Often kids, you know, they break shit. Why are they breaking it? It does change things, and when you're not yet skilled enough or powerful enough or experienced enough to actually create something to change the world, destruction is often the only method by which you have to make some sort of change in the world. So, if you weren't creating and you were destroying, what would you be doing? You'd just be sitting there, you know? Um, so I think one of the negative characteristics of the Page of Wands is they're kind of they're kind of a wild card. They're kind of a chaotic wild card in the sense that I think they're very inspired, and they're very inspired by the new thing. That's definitely one of the things that could help you get out of your comfort zone, get out of your house. These guys they're out there. They're following their passions and their dreams. One of the downsides, I think, present in this exuberant pursuit of the passions is that they kind of have this, they're kind of frozen in that state. They'll just keep chasing the new thing. I think the healthy, ideal progression through, the tarot is okay, embrace this pursuit, then you kind of settle into a regular thing, then there's another revolution, then there's another, it's going back and forth between these stages of active and receptive, stable and violent, moving around. Um, but I think one of the downsides is being stuck in this modality where you're only just motivated by what's the new thing, what's the new thing, what's the new thing. It means that you could never get really good at any of those things. The only thing you become an expert in is just trying out new shit all the time. And yeah, it's almost like these kinds of archetypes are often like they're kind of like they're addicts to those new experiences, and they can never move past that stage. Um, and so yeah, that's one sort of juvenile aspect of the kind of revolutionary, inspired, moving, passionate archetype of the wands. And then the other one is, like I was saying, because again, this is a pretty juvenile interaction with creativity. This could often be the kind of creativity that mostly is just an embracing of destroying things, rearranging things, defiling things, you know. Um, yeah, often raising things that are, attempting to transform ugly things into beautiful things, as opposed to just trying to make new beautiful things. Yeah, so I think I think those are some of the obstacles with this. This is definitely the kind of person to, I think, interact with briefly to tap into that energy, but that energy ultimately should lead you to a place where you you start to kind of commit to one particular passion or one particular creative idea. Like there will be plenty of other revolutions within that idea. So it's not like you'll never experience a new thing, but it's just kind of like sticking with, yeah, use that inspiration, but use it in a way that's like dedicated to that thing that inspires you. And then on the flippity flip, Knight of Swords. Um, I think it's interesting that this character is riding from right to left, or riding his horse. This is also the case of the Marseille, which, I'm all about. Also, the page faces in the same direction. I think these are important little details. But yeah, so why are we going from right to left? Why are we going back in time? What's that all about? I think that one interpretation is that this is someone who is going back to attack their founding principles or beliefs, their first principles idea. Um, swords, swords being a suit that represents, you know, not just not just thought and words, but at the core of thinking and words and encapsulating things in symbols. I think swords are a pretty good symbol for abstraction, for dividing things into smaller pieces, and in that sense, understanding things. Right, going back. First, whoops, hey there. First principles. What the you got a basic idea. Suits are symbolizing these ideas, these abstractions. Often, once you have an idea, then you could start building a theory on top of it. And sometimes the theory gets to a point where it's not working anymore. It's not consistently making predictions that work out. You might have an idea of how the world is. Often there are people who think that people are ultimately good, and there are people who think that people are ultimately horrible scumbags. And each of those is operating under a theory. Sometimes, you know, you think that people are ultimately scumbags, but yet everyone seems to be nice, but you're doubting everyone, and at that point, you got to go back. You got to go back to what what you know leaps of reasoning and logic. What drove you to come up with that theory in the first place? And you got to start attacking some of the some of those initial pieces of information that you were working with. Often it takes very little evidence. It takes one experience sometimes to make up your mind and to create a theory that applies to all experiences. So like, literally one person could break your heart, and then that could lead that piece of evidence, that one person broke my heart, that could lead you to form a theory that all people are going to break your heart, or all men or all women or something like that. It's like that is not enough evidence that you're working with. That's a very small data set. So after you've been, let's say, going through life with one of these presumptions, with one of these theories, it hasn't been working. Maybe you're upset all the time. Maybe nothing seems to work out for you. If things consistently aren't working out, if what you think you need to do to get a certain result out of life doesn't seem to bring that result, there's a good chance that a part of your overall theory, in terms of how you interact with whatever that thing is, some part of it is just incorrect. It's founded on, some false piece of information, or you didn't do enough research. And it can be really, 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 really difficult for people to even become aware of the fact that their outlook, their theory might be wrong. Like, that's a huge blow to the ego, you know? And particularly, and okay, you might suspect it, or you might casually be like, oh yeah, everything I do is wrong, you might have one, but even then, you might not realize how wrong that statement is. It's like there's so many things that the ego does to protect itself. Um, Truly admitting, your own faults or weaknesses is generally very difficult. And what's even harder is that to go, okay, I fucked up. Now let's put that under a microscope, because I think the fear, the subconscious fear there, is that okay, maybe you were just made aware of one thing that you were wrong about, but now investigating that, you kind of know on some level that that process of investigation has a really good chance of uncovering a whole bunch of other ways in which you were wrong. In fact, that one thing that you became consciously aware of that was wrong, that might literally be like the tip of the iceberg of all the other shit, that you've just been wrong about. And that's just right now is just buried in the subconscious. So yeah, so I think this Knight of Swords archetype, I think this is like a true philosopher. This is someone who is going after the truth no matter what. And trust me, there's plenty of downsides to that as well. You can't always keep attacking your basic presumptions, about life. Like at some point you do need to essentially commit to some theory, at least for some amount of time, just so you can get shit done. But um, yeah, invoked invoked sparingly. If you take up arms, get suited up, and make this attack, once in a while. I think that's a pretty healthy way to do it. To alternate the kind of stability of sticking with your guns, sticking with your beliefs, and then challenging. Then again, if everything's working out really well, do you really need to, like, I mean, if your life is perfect, do you really need to start questioning what your beliefs are? Start second guessing yourself? It's hard to say. But yeah, so I think this archetype, or at least at this point, to me, it's kind of symbolizing the value of having the having the courage, having the energy and courage to sort of attack yourself, to attack your possibly some of your most basic assumptions about how things work, what things are, what's true, what's false, what's good, what's bad. Um, to go back there. So this is often a pretty rare thing for people. So I would say certainly take advantage of any of these kind of moments that you find yourself coming across. That's gonna be it for me for today. Thanks for watching. Drop me a like if you like the video, or comment hashtag free reading if you would like to be entered to a draw for a free one-on-one weekly tarot reading. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.